Now I'll be inviting Dr. Sushma to present her case. Dr. Sushma is currently glaucoma consultant at Narayan Nethralaya, and she'll be presenting her case on double trouble glaucoma and nanophthalmos.
Thanks, Dr. Bhalla. And,
yeah, Dr. Sushma, all yours.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen.
I think I've lost it.
Yeah. At the outset, I would like to thank AIOS, Dr. Bhalla, and for giving me this opportunity. I'm just going to talk about glaucoma and nanophthalmos by means of a small case. Right. So now this was a 52-year-old gentleman who presented with poor vision since childhood and had recently further deterioration. That's how he presented to us. Had never used glasses, and this is how the clinical picture was. He had hand motions vision in one eye, and the other eye was only counting finger half meters. There was epithelial haze, pigments on endothelium, some amount of cataract. The optic nerve looked 0.9 in the right eye and 0.4 in the left eye. Typical angle closure kind of a picture. Pressures were 38 and 46, and gonioscopy showed a synechial closure. So what we did was diagnosed as primary angle closure glaucoma with cataract and usual injection mannitol and anti-glaucoma medications, and did a peripheral iridotomy. Once the cornea got clear, then we could do his refraction and see that he had almost plus 15 or plus 14 diopter sphere. And there were multiple atrophic patches onto the iris, particularly in the right eye, and both the eyes had a posterior synechiae. When we did the axial length, it was 17.08 in the right and 16.98 in the left. So that was quite a short eyeball. AC depth was small, lenses were thick. So the diagnosis came to as nanophthalmos with cataract and angle closure glaucoma. Now, post-PI, on subsequent follow-ups, his pressures range between 28 to 36 with the maximum medical therapy. So he was advised for surgery. However, patient was not very keen, and actually he was lost to follow-up for almost 4 months. When he came back, his vision was like this, and the pressures were 28 and 32. He was using the medications. So now we were thinking there's definitely surgery is required, and we were wondering whether we should do the right eye first or the left eye first, whether we should be doing sclerotomies or no sclerotomies, and whether we should do trabeculectomy alone first or we should do a combined surgery. Well, looking at the overall picture and the way the patient's compliance was, we decided to do the better eye first, and we decided to do phaco with trab and a partial thickness sclerectomy. This is how his biometry was, in the sense the IOL power calculation when we did the lens power he required was of a 48 diopter. So anyway, keeping in mind all that, we decided to put the lens which was maximum possible power available. So this is a partial thickness scleral window which is being done before starting the surgery. So we have exposed the conjunctiva and made a partial thickness scleral flap. Then I proceeded with the surgery, in the sense the cataract and trab. So you can see I'm releasing the synechiae there on either side by using a viscoelastic, and then creating a capsulorhexis through the side port. The idea was to keep the anterior chamber maintained, and I decided to do the same site trab and cataract surgery. So this is a
1 minute remaining.
Sorry. Okay. So this is the scleral flap being done, and a routine cataract surgery. After that, we put the IOL. This was a 40 diopter lens that we had to put. That was the maximum possible available, and rest was a routine trab. So I'll just skip this and one releasable suture I wanted to put, because I expected the pressures to be high even after that. And towards the end, after putting the releasable suture.
Now I have to say your time is up after 4 minutes.
Okay, 4 minutes are there, right? Okay, thank you. I thought it's only 1 minute remaining. That's why I was hurrying. Right, so we completed the partial thickness sclerectomy there. And so I removed the partial thickness scleral flap and closed the conjunctiva there. So this was the end of the surgery. Now, on the first post-operative day, the visual acuity was around 660, and this is how the clinical picture looked like. The IOP was 19 millimeters of mercury. So he had a very small palpebral aperture, so it was really hard to open his eye. But you can see the bleb was there, and you can see this releasable suture that we had created with the filtering bleb. The chamber was formed. Thankfully, he had a good glow. We could see the disc also, and the pressures were okay. Now the disc was clearly visible. We could see it's around 0.6. Subsequently, the pressures increased. Like on day 7 itself, the pressures were high. So we decided to release the releasable suture. So this is on the slit lamp. We released the suture and checked the CDILs post suture release and found that that was quite okay. Subsequently, he did well. And this is around 4 months post-op that you can see. The eye was more or less settled. The best corrected visual acuity was 6/36 with plus 10 diopters, and pressure was 12 millimeters of mercury. Now,
Your time is up.
All right. Shall I go to the last slide?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
Okay, so
you can just summarize, ma'am.
Okay, so this was the other eye. This is how the nerves looked like, and this was the better eye field and OCT. So last follow-up, he was doing pretty well. So just to summarize, the considerations that we should take in nano-ophthalmos is that these are the small eyes with smaller corneal diameters and smaller anterior chambers and thicker lenses. So we have to be very careful while operating. These patients usually require surgical management, and if the sclera is thick, mostly sclerotomy or partial thickness sclerectomy is something that can be done to prevent the choroidal effusion or suprachoroidal hemorrhage. There are high chances of failure of glaucoma surgeries, and management of refractive error is also a challenge because piggyback lenses also is a challenge in these patients because of smaller anterior chamber depths. And long-term follow-up is important to keep a watch on the posterior segment complications. Thank you for your kind attention.
I think the case is open for discussion. I would invite Dr. Ramanjeet ma'am to kindly discuss the case, ma'am.
I think this is a very interesting case, and we may not get 17 axial length. Most of the time, we probably end up with 20, 19, in that range. But I think the precautions that were described are absolutely accurate, that these patients tend to have a thicker sclera and tend to go into choroidal effusion. So you have to be prepared to tackle a choroidal effusion if it occurs. So a sclerotomy or a partial sort of thickness flap made beforehand probably helps. Some of the other things that have been suggested are that you could actually do a kind of vitreous tap or a core vitrectomy before doing any of the surgeries. That helps to prevent the choroidal effusion and things as well. But I think that this was really well done, and the releasable suture, I think, was a very, very important aspect of the surgery. If you can keep the IOP high in the first week or 10 days, you will find that a lot of these choroidal effusions, even if they occur, are very, very limited and can be taken care of afterwards by medical management, especially with the use of diflupredin drops. So I think all in all, this was a very interesting sort of case, both in terms of the IOL that was required at the end, plus the fact that we were able to get the glaucoma controlled after doing a combined surgery. And as I reiterate, please, releasable sutures should be part and parcel of a lot of our trabeculectomies because they save us from a lot of problems afterwards. I think we could ask for any other comments that anybody else has.
I think those are very nice and useful comments. Dr. Gauri Murthy, would you like to?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Dr. Sushma, excellent case as usual. And only a couple of things. Definitely a sclerotomy should be planned, as you have told. I think that's a good take-home message. And one clinical tip is that when you see a patient who is wearing a glass like an aphakic glass and is phakic, that means that this person is most likely to have nano-ophthalmos. So in the busy OPD, if you're seeing someone wearing thick plus lenses, keep nano-ophthalmos in mind. And any axial length less than 20, keep it in mind. And as Madam said, Dr. Ramanjeet said, a pars plana port. Now with the advent of this microincision vitreous surgery, a 23 gauge cannula that can be placed in the pars plana before you start the anterior segment part of the surgeries. This helps in maintaining the AC deepens much better, because in this nanophthalmos and these relative anterior microphthalmos eyes, the front, that is the anterior chamber, is very crowded. So it's very difficult to do maneuvers, and phaco also becomes difficult. So if you put a pars plana cannula and just let the vitreous escape a little bit, then the procedures in the anterior chamber become very, much easier compared to otherwise. Otherwise, I have nothing else to add. Dr. Sushma excellently managed, and I think it's an excellent lesson for whoever is watching.
Thank you.
I think there were a few odd things in this case. One of them was that despite the 17 millimeter axial length, the AC depth was still 2.5.
Yeah, that was an advantage.
Very, very odd sort of thing. The other thing you said was maximal medication. I think these days, with the advent of the Rho kinase, I think we have to add our Rho kinase to such patients as well.
Yeah.
We don't know how much they're going to add to the other medications, but they do something. So when we talk about maximal medication, I think these days the number of medications has increased.
Yes. This case was operated in 2018, ma'am.
Yeah, I saw that. So I'm just sort of saying that, we have to remember we have newer drugs as well.
True that.
So anybody else would like to add on to that? Like, I think those were very useful points, that because partial sclerectomy or partial sclerotomy, I think, should be done in these patients to prevent any choroidal effusion in the later stages. And that's a very useful tip, to do vitreous tap through pars plana to decompress or sort of increase the volume of the anterior chamber, which is already very crowded. And I think those are very useful points. And Dr. Sushma, how do you plan to tackle the residual refractory error, which is quite significant, of +10 diopter?
We have given glasses to him. Actually, before this, he has never used glasses, though he's amblyopic. But now he's using that +10 glasses. Now the refraction is almost +10 and 9 in the, I showed in the last follow-up, but it was hurried. So glasses only we have given right now, because he's able to manage with that.
I'd just like to add a couple of things. One, that when you have even shorter eyes, 14, 15, you may actually have to do 2 or 3 quadrant sclerotomy along with a sclerectomy. And it's good to check the choroidal, the scleral thickness before you, on an ultrasound before you plan surgery, because anything more than 2, you are likely to have an effusion. So these are 2 additional things. And one, in general, if you don't do nanophthalmic cases, don't plan to put a piggyback lens, because it makes life miserable for the glaucoma surgeon after that. There's no space in these eyes.
Yeah. This particular patient had 1.8 millimeter scleral thickness.
Okay.